Everyone, my name is Alexandria Lopez. I am one of the lead parent advocates with Alameda County's Parent Engagement Program with A Better Way. I'm happy to be here and happy to see all of you to share my story. Just a kind of brief overview of my childhood. My mom was involved with the child welfare system at some point when I was very young. Me and my sister were taken away. She was struggling with drug addiction and just the lifestyle of being transient. Um, Throughout time, I remember that my mom was physically abusive to me and just leaving me in places in strangers' homes. I didn't know where I was at, what was happening. Some things, ended up transpiring from that act from those actions of hers, but eventually I was removed and was placed with other family members. And then majority of my life, my dad raised me from 10 and up. I was a good kid. I mean, I did struggle with the separation from my mom because I didn't really know what was going on at that time, but I just knew I really missed her. Eventually, fast forward, I did graduate high school when I was 18. I decided to have her back in my life. Little did I know she would get introduced me to narcotics, starting with painkillers. I was very naive, very young, but it did turn into addiction because after she introduced them to me. Eventually, when I was at having my second child, I had struggled off and on with them, was stabilized, but then my sister, a few months after I gave birth to my second child, committed suicide, and that went spiraling out of control. And as most people, that deal with that type of grief, somebody close, I didn't have the tools, so I sought to self-medicate through drugs. Eventually got me in trouble with some crime, getting in trouble with the law. I did catch my first charge, which was a felony conviction. But eventually I did get that expunged later on in life. But during that time, it was hard. And then eventually, pregnant with my third child, that's when like CPS started getting involved. Um, I was alone. I didn't have very much family support, around. My social worker was very tough, but she gave me grace by allowing to see my actions speak louder than my words. And a lot of the other family members weren't able to be placements either, so they were kind of just bad mouthing me in every way possible. And my children were placed with foster parents. It was scary because we don't know what's going on, in the foster parents' home, what's different, where they're at, and my oldest son had behavioral challenges. And I think that what's made it even more challenging for me is that I couldn't be there at every waking moment when he was struggling with his behavior. It did end up, they did separate my children to two different foster placements, resource placements. Um, but in that county where I had mine, they got to, supervise my visits. So I got to actually get to know the foster parents, and they got to be a part of my journey. They really saw how hard I was working and really supported the reunification. I think that's what really helped is that they were there in ways that I would never expect. Just the encouragement, the praise, what really helped push me through, having a good support system that I was building within the agency and between my social worker, the foster parents, and all the other professional staff helping me through it, I was able to overcome homelessness. I was able to overcome my mental health. I was successfully navigated through my formal probation. Um, there was domestic violence, but that ceased to end. But I did eventually have to separate from the father, and I reunified with my children. Eventually, sometime later, I did have to make a move from Southern California up here, rebuild our lives again, start over. And I just remember my child welfare worker telling me after 6 months after I closed my case, she's like, Alex, you would make a really great parent advocate one day. So she planted the seed. 2 years later, come up here and I found a better way. And I was just like, okay, am I ready for this? And I applied and it's been the most rewarding experience working with A Better Way and being part of the parent engagement program. And I get to be in trainings like this to talk to other resource parents that were very helpful in my navigation of the system. And just encourage you guys that, us parents, we are broken people. We've gone through some stuff, but we're not monsters. We just need a little, a little praising, a little encouragement, and just a lot more love and just more tools to kind of navigate, through hard challenges in life. So I do appreciate everyone, that are here and willing to take in children while parents are trying to get themselves together. It really does mean a lot. And I do push on my parents on the caseload of how welcoming and helpful that resource parents were in my case. So thank you guys for being here and thank you.